have some.
Oh, holidays. I can bring that.
It don't have a thing to do with it. No, you see I'm over here saying amen with my laugh. That was the first time he would ever see it. Lexington vote. That one. Okay. You said it. I said it. on my train.
This is my entire upbringing. Just
Recording in progress.
I brought all of this.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is Tuesday, December 5th, 4 p.m. I would like to call the Community Impacts Grant Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Brenham,
here.
Livingston,
Here?
Barron,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
English.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would also like to recognize Councilwoman Allison Terratio, who is just visiting with us this afternoon. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from November 16th, 2023. Do we have any additions, deletions, or changes to the minutes presented in the packet?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
move to approve.
Second. Motion for approval in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, next is adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions from staff?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any other changes?
Second.
Motion in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. So the main item on our agenda today is the fiscal year 2024-2025 Community Impacts Grant application. Just as a refresher for those listening online, our last committee meeting, we reviewed our Community Impact Grant application, provided suggested changes to any of the guidelines and the application. Staff has updated the document to reflect the changes that were discussed at the last committee meeting. And today I would like the committee to go through this updated application and provide any other final changes so that we can move forward with a recommended document to go to the full body. So in starting out, I do want to kind of open it up to staff to see if there's anything you would like to say, and then open it up to the committee. ACA Thomas, you're recognized.
Thank you. I did just notice one item that will need to be changed on the application prior to going to council if this is approved. The grant award notifications would be June 28th, 2024, not 2025. This is on page 7 of your document. And while the amount of the award is up to $1.830 million, as requested, we have looked to find a consultant, and we estimate the cost for that consultant to be about 10%. So your actual proceeds to be awarded should be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,647,000.
Thank you, ACA Thomas. So if the committee would like, we can open up for discussion or any type of comments or changes you would like to make or motions.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you. So I just, I'd like to go through the actual application and just, there are some small things that I would like to recommend, starting in the application portion, number 13, which is on page 21. I would like to include, well, we do ask about demographics and such and geographic location. I think we need language that is more specific to say for example, districts and/or zip codes. I think that will help streamline some of the questions that we get from other council members, as well as some of our constituents who have questions about the services and the service location. The next item is number 14 under sustainability, where it asks about the actual, the organizations or other funding sources. I think it would be helpful if we also ask for specific amounts. Because, they could just say, well, I applied to Gretchen Barron Foundation to support this project. But if we're talking about sustainability, we want to know what specific amounts that they have requested or pending to be funded. And then the next one, I'm just going to keep rolling if that's okay. Number 15. Under partnerships, again, I think it's important that they are specific. And, we ask them to list their organizations, but also in listing the organizations, I think it's helpful if they give a description of the type of partnership that they are, that they have, so that we'll know, okay, they're working with ABC organization to provide, X, Y, and Z. And then my last item for the actual application is under outcomes, number 16, where it asks for evaluation practices. I would like for us to be more specific and ask for goals and objectives that are measurable. Number 16. And then my last item for discussion is about the list of our community partners. I know that this is a conversation that will probably be ever evolving, and it's still early in the stages, but I would like to make a recommendation and even a possible motion, depending on, if this body can entertain it, and that is to perhaps look at funding the list of community partners in a 3-year cycle, and then have them they can reapply after 3 years, but for 3 years, providing, and there is a statement where the community partner portion is listed, it talks about, and this is where we probably have to have some conversation, but it talks about binding future councils. So with that, if we decide to do 3 years, just noting that it is based upon their evaluation from year to year. And my last portion of that recommendation would be to not give full funding each year. So in year 1, they would get full funding, and then in year 2 and 3, perhaps a decrease maybe of 20%. And the reason why I make this recommendation is that we have lots of organizations who have become solely dependent upon the funds of Richland County. And where they are tax dollars, I do think that we can be better stewards of our dollars if we would encourage our community partners to look at sustainable programming. We ask questions in the application as to how they plan to sustain the project and the programs, but if we continue to allow them to apply for full funding every 3 years, is that project, are they really meeting the goal of sustainability? So, Madam Chair, that's my recommendation, but I would like to hear from some of our colleagues about the list of community partners and the length of time.
Okay. I would ask, before we go to community partners, I would like to make a motion to accept Councilwoman Barron's recommendation for the questions in the application.
Second.
Any discussion?
We
I'm talking about community partners right now.
No, I want to do that separately. So I want to make sure we address, so everyone's kind of fresh. Everyone is fine with the initial recommendations that she made for the changes to the question. So I'd rather go ahead, take a vote on that before we move to community impact. So we have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Any other questions or comments related to the motion? Councilmember Branham?
Oh, should we also go ahead and incorporate the recommendations made by Ms. Thomas earlier?
Regarding the date, correct. Yeah. So I will amend my motion to reflect ACA Thomas's recommended changes as well as Councilwoman Barron's changes related to the questions in the application. Thank you. All right, hearing no other discussion, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham. Livingston.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes?
Mackey.
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. All right, and so now I'll open up the floor for any discussion related around the community partners list. And just so everyone's following along, we're looking at page 18. Okay. Mr. Livingston, did you have something to say, or were you good?
Yeah.
Okay, you're recognized.
I do think that there are community partners who, because of the role they play in our community and so forth, could possibly be a community partner indefinitely. I don't want to just say we're going to pick and choose different folks that, totally different folks every year and so forth. I think it's important for us to stick with someone who's providing a valuable service to us, and we're just simply augmenting what they're doing. So I don't want us to just kind of willy-nilly and just not stay with those that's making a tremendous contribution. That's what I'm making.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Barron, you're recognized.
And so to that point, Mr. Livingston, I agree with you on that. And so my recommendation is merely just stating that in 3 years, we would revisit the list, and those same partners have the opportunity to be a part of that list once again.
I like that idea. That way, they're on notice who that, it's not all guaranteed for every year.
I would like to see some limit set on the number of community partners at any given time. I think we have set the parameters as it relates to funding, that it's a 60-40 split, but I would like to see a limit set so that we really are focused on the ones that we see as community partners, and we're able to make sure that they're a true partner in that sense. And so I would like to not see, no more than 10 on this list at any given time. Councilmember Branham?
I was just thinking out loud, but if we incorporate Councilwoman Barron's recommendation to decrease those partners 100%, then 80%, 60% in year 3, that's reducing the amount that we would grant total to the community partners category. So that would impact that 60-40 split if we did not add new community partners. Just a thought.
I guess even with the reduction, I guess my thing would be if you add new people per se, how do you keep up every year? Because are you saying that you just keep adding? So in year 2, when it reduces because you have more money, I guess leftover money, then you're adding to the list, and then those people would start a 3-year term, and then you keep. Is that what you're saying? Yes, sir.
It would either be that, or we would just shift the percentage allocation so that more money went to the non-community partners.
Any other thoughts around community partners?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. So I'd like to make a motion that we fund up to 10 community partners in 3-year cycles, being year 1 at 100%, year 2 80%, and year 3 60%.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm,
Mr. Livingston, you recognize?
my concern with the motion is, I'm not ready to support reducing them every year at this particular point. Of an agency.
Yes, Ms. Barron.
And so I guess I go back to my point, and Mr. Livingston, you and I, we're definitely on the same page. But I want I think that for so long, we've been funding organizations and not really, we've kind of softly encouraged sustainability and sustainable programs. But I think as we look at our climate and our financial status, in just not in Richland County, but in the country, and the things that we want to do here within the county, if we're able to make some modifications and adjustments wherever we can, and encouraging these nonprofits to, look for other source of funding. I don't want to take all of their funding away, no, but I do want to encourage them to look for additional support throughout the county or even the state for that.
Mr. Livingston?
A lot of those community impact programs, they're already sustainable. They've been around for 50, 10 years, 8 years, whatever. So they don't need to prove to me, that, they're sustainable and can do the job because they've done it for so long. And I don't want to just say to them right away, well, we're going to start cutting you back each year. It's my concern.
Ms. Brown?
And so one further point, and that is that they've shown us that they do good work, and they are sustainable because we continue to fund them at 100%. And so if that is what council would like to do, and to continue to fund these organizations at 100%, and we don't have an expectation that they need to go after additional funding, then I would encourage us to stop asking them what their sustainability plan is. I think that's a question that we just need to take out, and I'm okay with that. But the way we have it set up right now is that we're encouraging them to go after additional funding, but if they don't, we still fund them at 100%. So that's my challenge there. I would like to see us push the envelope just a little bit further to see if indeed these organizations can do something different. But that's all I have to say on that.
Councilwoman English?
I understand both what you all are saying, but I thought, and this is me, so I'm clarification, that our community partners were chosen because of the work that they performed throughout Richland County. And I thought that was the reason that we chose them or voted on them as being our community partners, because they do extend not our work, but they do the work of the county. They do the mission of those, when I'm looking at seniors, when I'm looking at the Oliver Gospel Mission, Pathways to Healing, and Mercy. I look at those agencies as those agencies that are extension of our hands. And I thought that's why we chose them. And I know they're not permanent because things change, but as they're listed as community partners, I would like to see them funded, if we're going to fund them for 3 years, at the full amount, simply because they're an extension of us and the others don't get that. I know when I'm dealing with grants, and we do just what Ms. Barron says, we start out with 100%, we move to 75, and then the third year we're at 65. So I understand that, but I need the clarification on the community partner piece.
Thank you, Ms. English. I would say, I guess, one of the things with community impact grants in general is, as a body, this is a new process that we created. We, thankful to you all on this committee for serving and for staff for helping us to get out our first award cycle. And this, moving into our second award cycle, even this year, we are working extremely hard to make sure we align it with the budget cycle so that we can have a schedule that nonprofits are more familiar with. And so I do believe that this is an ever-changing and growing document and process that it's going to take us a few rounds to get it quite right. But one of the early things that I heard when we did this first round from nonprofits is, well, how do I get on the community partners list? And I do think, we have a list, which is great. These 9 organizations, I think we all agree that they do play a part and they are valuable and, really are good partners in the community. But moving forward, I think we have to look at how do we continue to evaluate and make sure as the county needs, they grow and change, that we are continuing to partner with the right organizations, one, but then two, I think there is something to be said to these organizations to know that, yes, we appreciate you and what you do, but you too need to make sure that you're responsible with taxpayers' dollars, and we're going to continue to evaluate, but it's not necessarily our responsibility to fund you and the program completely every year, year in and year out. And so I do think there's a process and a way that we need to work on language that says, yes, you're a good partner. And then maybe 2-3 years from now, there may be another organization that comes about that has been in the community just as long. And at that time, it's a different need that our community has. And maybe we need to remove one of these and have somebody else. But I do think it's something that needs to be continuously evaluated every year to make sure that these are really the partners that we need to have. But then also figuring out a way that there's room for others to be able to join, because like I said, there may be a way or entry point for others. And then creating something that isn't a given every year, that they're automatically getting this funding and we're doing it for the other organizations, right? The ones that are not community partners, we're asking them every year to reapply and explain kind of why they should get it and what they've done. I think we have to make sure we're holding the community partners to that same standard, if not more, because they are getting even more than the $50,000. So I do think we have to create some process around this. Mr. Livingston?
My last comment regarding why I don't want to just simply automatically just go, 1 year out, 2 years out, and so forth. We actually have a couple of community partners who provide an essential service to our county that nobody else provides. And I wouldn't want to say to them, we're going to automatically reduce you over a period of time. I want to have some options.
Mr. Livingston, I hear what you're saying. I guess I would say not everyone on this list provides what you're talking about.
Some.
Yes, some. And so I think you're right. There's some that may do that, but then there's some that don't. And I think we do have to say, what is that differentiator that says, okay, yes, we, the county, have agreed that this organization provides these things for the county and we can account for it, and we deem that a valuable thing.
That's why I agree with the 3-year thing is, if they're not done, I'd rather just get rid of them completely after 3 years, rather than just deduct every year and not allow them to do it. That's all.
Councilman Branham?
I just, I think there's more than one of us here saying, as a policy matter, or at least in the spirit of it, that we would like to see diminished dependence on Richland County government and taxpayer money, even from nonprofits that provide valuable and admirable services. So I definitely salute, the motion and the intent behind. And then I also hear the concern about the level of reduction from 1 year to the next. It would be a 3-year cycle. So just to say it out loud, my understanding of how the calculus would work is that whatever amount we gave an organization in year 1, that would be 100%. That would be the 100% measure. And then in year 2, it would be 80% of whatever it was we year before. So yeah, I could see where that would be tough if we got down to 60% in year 3. But I would love to hear and know that we did have something with teeth that was, again, trying to strongly encourage a continuing reduction of on rich taxpayer money.
Now, I guess put this out here for a conversation to see. Um, we know, like I said, this is our second go round at putting this out. And, you know, I know it would ultimately be short notice for any organization per se. But would the body be okay with saying, number one, there is an actual time limit set? So these organizations right here would be going into the second year. So at least putting this in writing, letting them know, okay, at year 3, there is a true, evaluation. In addition to every year, council's going to vote on this list. One, I mean, there's a time any council member anytime could say they want to remove a certain organization off of this list, but we'll evaluate every 3 years. And then I'm wondering if we go ahead and at least let some of these partners know that there is a possibility that there will be a sliding scale as we continue to develop language for this. So he's going into their second year, not saying automatically now you're in your second year and you're going to reduce funding, but knowing, okay, this may be your last year that you get full funding. Councilwoman Barron?
So that works, and I definitely can support that because, it would be difficult for someone entering year 2 for us to go in and say at this juncture that, they need to have sustainable measures to replace those dollars that we have deducted. So I guess my question for you would be, with the motion that we presently have, is the breakdown of 180, 60 needed as a part of this motion, or should we do something separate, noting when it will be implemented, the deductions will be implemented? Now, that's just a question for the body.
Councilwoman English?
I think the time that we need.
So with that, Madam Chair,
You recognize this, ma'am.
I'd like to amend my original motion to remove the breakdown of percentages. So that I just want to remove that portion from my motion. If I need to restate it, let me know.
I seconded the original, and I'll second the amended motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second on amended language. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston. Yes. Barron,
Yes,
Mackey,
Yes?
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion that we provide decreased funding beginning in year 3 for our present applicants, stating that they would receive 60% of their first year's funding, which would, however, moving forward with the second round, this is where it's getting tricky. The second round of community partners however, completing the first community partners term of 3 years, we would implement funding at the levels of 100% in year 1, 80% in year 2, and 60% in year 3. That was a lot. That was a lot.
All right, you made a motion. I'll second for discussion. Okay, so technically, these community partners are entering now in year 2. Your motion would state that in year 3, the sliding scale of funding would begin, but they would be in year 3. So are you saying they would automatically go from 100% to the 60 because that would be their 3rd year, or are we starting a new? Well, tell me.
Based on what I heard you say earlier, I'm saying that in year 3, they would go to 60%. And then once after that group is completed, and we look at another round of year 3 community partners, and it very well could be this same group, that's when we would start to institute 100%, 80%, 60%.
Mr. Livingston, you recognize?
Sounds to me like sometimes when we're talking about these agencies, it's as if we're doing them a favor. I think they're doing us a favor as a county. I think they helping work for our citizens and so forth. So I approach it from that perspective that it could be something essential that they're doing for our citizens that we represent. So they're doing something for us. For example, one of the Pamela A's Life groups, kind of just went out of business and so forth. Now, let's say we decide we're going to take this approach, and we have a great need there, and this is the only group in town doing that, and we will automatically tell them before we even hear anything or know that we're going to cut them 60% or whatever, is what I'm having a problem with.
Councilwoman Barron.
Yeah, so, and I definitely want to go on the record to say that it is not my intent to cause anyone have to go to business or to do services at a lower level of excellence. But I do believe that we have to get to a point where we can fund these organizations and note that they're not just only providing a service to Richland County, our residents and citizens, but, so why does it make Richland County responsible for 100% of their project funding? And that's just my concern. And these same organizations apply for federal funding and state funding where they have to adhere to the same level of request. And so this is not something that I would venture to say if we ask all 9 of them presently that they would say this is, something that we just made up. This is something that, and you've heard Ms. English say it, in her work with grants, that commonly takes place. So it just, either way, I think that I fully support these organizations. I fully support the process. I just would like to encourage them to really be creative and to start to look at other funding. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess another thing I want to put out here for discussion with the body and looking at the community partners list, understanding they do all do different things and have different impact to the community and what they do. They also are unique in the amount of funding that they request. We have, for example, Pathways to Healing that only requested $60,000, whereas we have some others that are requesting upward in the 6-figure range. And so, looking at that, a Pathways to Healing or someone that's requesting, $50,000, $60,000 range, I'm inclined to look at them a little differently, I guess, than those that are really requesting these large amounts of funding when we talk about reduction. And so I don't know how the body feels about that, if there's, any thought around the amount at which they receive If that makes a difference when you look at the list, because there are some that, ask for way more than others, and if there's any thoughts or feelings one way or the other around that.
Last response.
Mr. Livingston, yes.
Last response. I don't have any problem with reducing or cutting agencies. I don't want a policy to say it's going to automatically happen, and I don't have a chance to deal with it. That's our main concern.
Guess when I'm looking at the word partner, that's what, it doesn't throw me, but that's what says, we're going to fund you for 3 years because of what you do. Because they're partners, they're not other service agencies. And so there are others, I won't say they're vying to get on this list, but they want to be on those 3 years. They're the partners.
So we had a motion, now we're in discussion. Any other thoughts surrounding? Councilwoman English, you recognize?
And this is just me because I know this is a work in progress. Until we get clarity, and I don't think we're clear yet, to just fund them at 3 years, and no, that's not a motion, but that's just up for discussion. Are more solidified in our thinking of our partners, the expectations, what we put out, the things that we're requesting to fund the ones that are on here now for 3 years, and then that solid pathway going. That's just up for discussion.
Ms. Barron, you recognize?
So I can go with that. My challenge becomes, when January comes, this committee might look a whole lot different. And, this ball could start all over again. And so what I said in the previous committee meeting is that we wanted to try to tie up as many loose ends as possible. And with the application going live in January, I just think that the more concrete this process can be, the better. And I will say this body has done an excellent job in streamlining our grant process and all, to really giving us guidance, or giving the applicants guidance on how to move forward. Councilwoman English, your statement weighs real heavy on me because, we still have lots of criteria that has not been identified as to how to even get on the list. So if we're talking about how to get on the list, but yet we have funding structure in place, I'm not opposed either way. But at some point you got to start something. So, I'm toying with this a little bit.
Councilman Branham.
I just want to ask for clarification again. I know we had some prior motions and votes. This vote is it on what, an additional recommendation to the full council, or is it to add something to the application itself?
Councilwoman Barron, it's your motion. I'll let you speak to that.
So this is a part, as I understand, this entire, whatever we recommend, this entire packet is going to full council. So the vote or the recommendation or the motion that I have made is the breakdown of funding. And that would be packaged in this application that would in return go to full council, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it can be, yes. So if you want it to be, it can, or you can make it and it's something that you're saying we list in the next application. But either way, I wasn't sure. Is your motion, do you want it in this one specifically?
That was the goal,
Okay,
but
yeah.
that was the goal. But if it is more palatable for us to hold it to the next round, I'm fine with that. So I tell you what, let's just hold it to the next round.
Well,
I'm compromising.
I guess, as the second to your motion, I would, can we go back and restate it? Because I think there may be at least something that goes into the application. I think that I do want folks to know, does that make sense? That there is a possibility that we
I got
are
you.
evaluating. So even if it doesn't
Yeah.
state the specific, I would like there to be something that states council may, council is evaluating, something that doesn't leave it open-ended forever. Does that? So I'm saying we previously had a motion about the 3-year time frame for community partners. And then I think there's needs to be additional language that just basically says, to the that council will something to speak to. I feel like no one.
Exercise the right not to fund them every year.
Okay. Yes.
That's already in there. That's already in there. That's there.
Or make it bold then.
Right up, it is bold, actually. It's actually bold. So it's, a matter of fact, it's on there twice.
Councilman Branham.
That's on page 18 under the community partner section. I just wondered if maybe it could be something like where we just state that our recommendation includes an objective of reducing organizations' dependence, grant recipients' dependence on Richland County government grants.
Community action group, community.
Okay.
I mean, you reduce,
Yes, Mr. Branham. You're
That was just I was trying to make sure to get a communication out there.
I'm talking about a way to say it. I'm just saying we may not want to say it that way. I'm just talking about a way to say it. I agree with it, but I'm just saying how we say it. 'Cause, I don't want to, tell somebody we may reduce something, next year, assuming that means.
I'm just operating with an understanding that we can't bind future iterations, future years of council when it comes to funding. So that's one reason why I was trying to keep it a little bit soft, but also communicate that that's kind of a policy recommendation or an objective recommendation. And I don't know if this committee agrees with that, but that's just a proposal based on the conversation we've had. And I can make that as a substitute motion. I'll make it as a substitute motion. The substitute motion would be that with this year's application and packet, that we include a statement that county council has as a general objective to, over time, see a reduction of community impact grant recipients' dependence on community impact grants.
Second.
We have a substitute motion and a second. Any discussion?
That we may consider.
That's right, that way we signal this may be coming, something more specific, something with teeth.
Staff, any concerns, questions about proposed language? All right. Okay, can we, sorry, Madam Clerk, can you take the vote, please? Yeah, I was about to look at you.
I'm ready to vote.
Branham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes,
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other thoughts, comments, suggestions on the application?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilwoman Barron, you recognize?
So I was just food for thought for our staff, and that is, I noticed that we have hospitality tax, accommodation tax applications, as well as the community impact grants applications, all going out at the same time. Now, I'm thinking of you, Ms. Harris, and your team. I would, I don't know how feasible it is, but perhaps maybe have community impact grants in the future go out in December. Of course, it will require something of the committee to be prepared for, but from a staffing perspective, it just brought me a little concern that all these applications are coming to us during this time. And then also, if we're thinking about our nonprofits who traditionally apply for funding, and some of them very well may apply for all three categories. So I don't know. We don't have to necessarily take it up at this point, but I did want to put on the record that I'd like to see it go out a little bit earlier, noting that it would be ready to go during the normal budget cycle time.
A.C. Thomas, you recognize?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, it was our intent for this to go in the future out in December with the hospitality and accommodations grants, and we hopefully will be able to move forward now that as we more refine this process for it to happen all at once.
And so to that point, and maybe this is where I was thinking they were going out in January. So they're due back.
They're due back February the 4th. It's sort of an annual practice, and all of our nonprofits have gotten used to that practice, and our applicants have. So we'd really like not to upset the apple cart because we don't want to change that process. Additionally, with the community impact grants, those are going to be scored by an outside party. So there won't really be a great deal of extra work for staff. But thank you for considering us. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. One other item that I do want to mention, I asked, all council members and to send any feedback they have on this application. I do want to point out to the committee that there is concern related to equity of distribution of awards for grants and making sure that each district receives or an organization is awarded for work that is done in each council district. So I bring that to the body for just as awareness that is a topic that was brought up by a council member to make sure that we have equity and awarding in each council district.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilwoman Barron, you recognized.
was there any recommendation from from the council person?
Just that there was a process to make sure every district had a organization that received money.
Sure.
Councilwoman Brandon, you recognized.
I feel like that's going to be partly addressed by some of the changes we made at the beginning of the committee meeting where we asked for districts served in the application to be included.
My concern
Councilwoman
is,
English?
I'm sorry, thank you. My concern is the needs per district. Naturally, District 1 and District 10 and 11 have different needs than District 7. So I understand, but I need more clarity on the equity of distribution, just to make that fair or get a clearer understanding. So if you're ready, I'm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
And Ms. Barron mentioned this when she talked about the criteria. And I'd just like to say the things I'd like to see from our community partners are evidence-based criteria, outcome of measures or your results. And this just shows proof of what you do. And Mr. Livingston has spoken to this many times. This just establishes proof and what you do. So when we have that criteria, we'll have those things in place.
Councilwoman English, can you clarify where you are or what question, I guess, because I want to make sure, is there a specific area you want to tie that to, or are you just saying holistically?
When we talked about the criteria for being on the community
Oh,
partners list.
sorry, okay, thank you. I was looking at the questions. Got it, okay, the community partner portion, okay. Was there any motion you wanted to make, or you just wanted to put that out there for
I
awareness?
wanted to put that out there for discussion because
Okay.
when Councilwoman Barron talked about the criteria, I don't think we established that yet or fully solidified that yet.
We didn't. I think that was something that we agreed as a body. That's something we need to continue to work on. And so at this point, we are going to move forward with the application. It is letting folks know that we'll work on that, and that is something that the committee needs to have a goal for establishing by the time the next application goes out. We did add the language that sets the cap of 3 years. Anybody else want to help refresh my memory on what else we added? You said something. They said, Thomas, we added 3 years, and what was the other thing we said?
There was Councilman Brannon's
you.
motion.
Yes, I couldn't remember all the words, but yes.
That a general objective to over time see a reduction of community impact partners' reliance on the community impact grants for funding. That would be added in the section that is currently bolded on the application.
Thoughts? Okay, so at this point, we will need an actual motion to accept the application and criteria presented with changes to send
So
to full
moved.
council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? A.C.A. Thomas? You good? Okay. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston, Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, we are now at item number 5.
Adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes?
Barron,
Yes?
Mackey,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Motion approved.